Good day and welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino and we are WestchesterTalkRadio.com. Yes, that is us, of course, and we are produced by Sharc, S-H-A-R-C. That's Sharc with a C, not a K, Sharc Creative, and find all of our programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. And we are brought to you by, sponsored by, made possible by our good friends around the area, people like Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, promising to power up Westchester right through April of 2021. Lipolis Electric. At Lipolis, don't get left in the dark. Get Lipolis. And Hightower Westchester at Hightower, they manage your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Here, it's isolation therapy time on Westchester Talk Radio, and we are joined by Seth Leitman. Seth, L-E-I-T-M-A-N. Seth Leitman is quite an interesting guy. Seth Leitman is the program manager for Sustainable Westchester and Sustainable Hudson Valley. He is the green living guy and the electric car guy and a whole lot more. Seth Leitman, welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, and tell us, how did you get involved in the green economy, which is what this is all about?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I started in the 90s, right after I got my master's program, working for NYSERDA, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Back then there was the Clean Water, Clean Air Environmental Bond Act that was going on.
Right, so and this was on the heels of things like the Hudson River Valley Sloop Festival every year, et cetera, and everything going on back then from the late 70s into the 90s at that time.
Yep. So there was $100 million for the state I was managing, putting hybrid electric transit buses and CNG buses on the roads. I also was involved with indoor air quality in schools, how there was back then a lot of mold in schools, and they came up with the EPA Green Schools Building Program. And then I was involved with, while I worked for NYSERDA, I worked on a wide variety of moratorium issues. But my main thing was I realized when I was working on alternative fuel vehicles that if you take solar and you take an electric car, it's zero emissions. So I really had a penchant for that, as they would say. So then I went and started working for the New York Power Authority, starting in about 2000. And I worked on a program that was in Westchester as well. It was an electric car demonstration program where people can commute from their homes to the train and back using an electric car that we provided for them for $199 a month. It was a small car, but the number one complaint they had was that it didn't go far enough. So after I did that program, and you might have seen the movie or heard about when the car companies decided they wanted to stop the electric vehicle mandates back in the early 2000s. So there were more hybrids that were coming on the road back then. So now, to put it quickly, I then went, after I left the state of New York, ran a couple of companies, closed one, and at the same time, I was asked by McGraw-Hill to rewrite a book, Build Your Own Electric Vehicles, second edition. And it was considered a classic by the electric vehicle enthusiasts out there throughout the world, frankly. So I rewrote that, the second edition, or I wrote the second edition because the author was deceased, and it got sold. It sold over about 15,000 copies. So we came up with a line of books called the Green Guru Guides, from everything from solar power for your home, do-it-yourself home energy audits, renewable energies for your home, build your own plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and so on and so on. Some of these names sound very familiar to people. Do-it-yourself home energy audits, solar power for your home, renewable energies for your home. So we wrote these books to make it simple for people to learn how to do this or learn the concepts of it so they might be interested in it. I've over the years worked with Tesla and a wide variety of other electric car companies and solar companies.
You have your own
Uh,
consulting business too.
right. While I had one company that I closed, I started a blog, and this was in 2006. And from that point, in around '08, uh, I left partnering with an engineering firm at the time and was working with a guy on brand management. Long story short, we determined the Green Living Guy was the name for me. So I bought the websites, built up the website, and the traffic is it grows every year. Right now, it's at about, and that's for this year, it's at about 7.5 million viewers
Wow.
individual. Um, and it's just by showing up, just by writing content. It wasn't like I did anything miraculous or anything like that. So I did that. I had Twitter, right? I have a verified Twitter account. I'm verified on Google, and so a wide variety of things happened. And so I started doing a consulting business, which covers energy efficiency, transportation, and sustainability, and everything under there I consult on. So by doing this thing with Sustainable Hudson Valley and Sustainable Westchester, it's part of my company, consulting businesses on how to accelerate electric vehicles into the New York, right? That's what their charge is. No pun intended. Right? So we got I'm covering from Yonkers to Albany at this point
Well,
with this program.
yeah, that's a pretty
Yeah,
wide area. Obviously, you go back in time, you started doing this 25 years ago. Most
yeah,
people, I think, are under the impression that the green economy is something that is kind of happening and really growing and really fostered now. And we look back a quarter of a century. You've been doing this for a while. You were a forerunner, an innovator in the green economy, in green energy. What did
yeah.
you see back then that made you say this is the way to go, even though it's taken a while for it to become a real focal point of our society?
That's a great question. Great question. I realized back then that there was one simple thing about solar, even though it might have cost a lot, right? There was one thing that after you paid it off, it was you were making 100% return. Uh, and with solar and with wind, even though back then it was expensive, after you paid off your wind power turbine, you're generating 100%, free electricity. So I realized that inevitably with technology, as I saw with my cell phone, or back then, to even be as antiquated, when I started seeing cell phones come on the market and how they started growing over time, and now I'm communicating with you on my iPhone, which I could never have done before. So one thing I've always realized is that technology was going to surpass our expectations. So the idea of solar and wind or any technology, even tidal, right? Uh, which was a thing that we used to play with in the bathtub when I was a kid. You take that the water and you put it through the drain, and it spins a wheel, and the wheel spins. Like if you have ever constant water, you're going to spin the wheel, right? Now I know there's hydroelectric and all that stuff, but the idea of tidal uh, is really exciting for me because currents are a constant thing most of the time in
And
oceans.
you've been into this obviously since you were a kid.
Yeah, I guess I realize that. Yeah, now. So I, after time, realized after got in my master's program, there was a book called Green Gold, and it said basically that the future of energy and the future of um, our economy as well as the environment was to go to environmentally sensitive technologies for energy deployment.
So
And
is this
it would,
about basically you talk about the money aspect of it, of
yeah,
recouping what you've invested eventually? It'll all be free and you won't have to pay it off anymore. Is
right.
this basically financially incentivized what it's all about? Does the green energy work as good as, say, the kind of power and electricity we get now?
Well, let me give you a couple of
Realizing that people are
examples.
willing to pay more to get the electricity they want.
Abs- uh, no question. Well, let me give people some perspective. I do have solar panels and power walls up, two power walls on my house. During this last recent hurricane or tornado, we want to call it, with the power outages,
Right.
um, I
Which
was not
some
out.
people are still suffering through. And it seems like some companies that handle this are not able around our tri state area to make everything
It's
work yet
horrible.
again.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
governor seems to be on top of those on the New York side.
yeah. So before it happened, uh, Con Ed had ensured that my transformer and everything was running perfectly, and they've been pulling from my power walls throughout uh, this period.
How do you do
And
that? How do you pull from the power walls?
well, I'm connected to the grid. Here, there might be a way I can show you. Hang on,
Huh?
I'm going to show you right now while we're talking about this.
How long have you done this for at home?
Well, the solar and the
I see.
yeah,
Up on
okay,
screen here.
right. So I'm still connected to the grid, and then there's the power walls which are fully charged. There's the solar, and there's my home.
Uh-huh.
So right now, that's not what's going on right now, but that's what happens when you're not using the grid. So um, the
So
power
you can
walls
move
go on.
this around whatever you want to. You just tap the button on your phone to home, to Powerwall, to solar, whatever you want
Right. So
to give you
if
what
I
you want.
wanted to be backup, just backup power, I have a setting to do that. If I wanted to be that I use it at night or throughout the day, I could do that too. There's a wide variety of choices, but to give you a real perspective on this, uh, my Con Ed bill back in the summer used to be, and I pay for renewable energy 100% on electricity on my utility bill. So I'd be paying, 189, 289, sometimes a month, 389 if it's really a month. And I'd get bills now that are about $58
Hmm?
for the
And that two to
same.
four hundred buck range is about general in the tri-state area, about on
That's
average.
right. That's right. So
My
now
home
it's about,
and other people I know too. So you pay
yeah.
$58 a month. That's all. How?
During
How do you
when
do
the,
that?
right now it's right about now, yeah, I'm paying about $58, $60 maybe a month.
A couple of extra
And
bucks, negligible. That's negligible.
it's it
58, 60, whatever.
when you're paying 389 or 400,
Yeah.
seeing a
Not going
$58.
to argue over a couple of extra bucks from 58 to 60. So,
No, I'll go with I'll even round
yeah.
up to 60. I'll go that far because that's a huge difference
Are
for
you
people.
happy with what you have?
You know why I'm happy? Because my wife is happy, to be quite
Okay.
honest with you.
All
uh
right. She's
um
happy. Are you happy with it too?
oh gosh, yes. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Tesla gave me a really good deal because I was the face for Panasonic USA, announcing at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas back in 2018. I was the face of the Panasonic Tesla Alliance, strategic alliance, which created the Gigafactories. Gigafactory One is they still have a relationship with Panasonic for all the Model 3s that are out and all the Model S's that are using Panasonic. So, and they've been having a relationship since about 2009, 10. So, but we officially announced that relationship for the first time ever then. And it was for the car, their way that they want to change solar so it could be solar shingles versus just like solar panels on your roof, and then energy storage, which are the power walls. Like I showed you on that, they look like two big ATMs without the ATM in it, the size of it, and it's just a big Tesla across it, and they're battery banks. So whatever extra electrons are not captured by my house or to the grid goes into the power wall, and it charges it all through the day so that at night I can use it.
All right. So let's say somebody doesn't know electronics or power or solar or wind
Yeah,
energy like you do, for example. What's the
sure.
best way to go into it and to know what you're doing, to know that you're getting your bang for your
Sure.
buck, the kind of bang for your buck that you get?
Well, I consult individuals also. I don't consult just government. Um, so I offer an hour consulting charge just to go through it with people and get them up to snuff. And if they need a little bit more than an hour, of course, I'll do it. I'm not, I want people to succeed at this. Um, I also have a company that's a spinoff that I'm working on called Solar Power for Your Home, so that we will be able to provide solar to customers. I have a company that I work with directly that handles my solar and energy storage customers. So they do solar power not from Tesla, but they do the power walls from Tesla. So you still get that app that app that I just showed you and how it looks.
Hmm?
So you get to still control your solar through the Tesla app by getting their power walls. But the solar panels are their Sun Power. It's a different company. Just uh, they're more. They've been around for a long time and uh,
What company
do
is
very
that?
well. Sun Power.
Sun Power is
That's
the company. Okay.
Yeah, that's the name of the solar panels. But they're just the name of the company that I use is New York State Solar Farm. They're an installer, but I work with a wide variety of other solar companies as well in the tri-state area. I'm also working with a guy to bring it into Connecticut as well. So I'm doing the public side, the consulting side for consumers, as well as trying to
Right.
help them
You do
get solar.
marketing, the promotional side, you do everything, it
Yes,
seems. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Well, now with my Green Living Guy production side and the face of this stuff, um, one thing led to another, and now I have a TV show that's about to go live. I can't say the network yet, but I've already filmed the first
I
season, and
think
I'm
I know
already.
what it is, but I won't say. Okay. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's okay. It's on my for people's reference. If you go
Yeah.
to my LinkedIn and you type in my name, you'll see it. I just can't say it yet.
You can't
So
say it publicly as of yet.
no, not yet. But
Right.
we've done the first season. I'm working on the second right now,
Right.
and we're getting more and more types of different content you'll see in the second season as well. We're getting more interest from getting content from places like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. More car companies are coming on. Solar. I just had a chat with somebody that I'm going to break out throughout a lot of the segments. A doctor who cured lupus from herself by going 100% to vegan and vegetables, not just vegan, but purely raw diet, and their lupus is gone. They have had two kids. They thought they were going to die at a young age. They had two kids, and she's living strong, and to the point now where she just testified yesterday to the USDA to talk about her diet as a way to get people healthy and moving that are in incurable diseases or an autoimmune disease that can affect you. And some of this stuff is just simple getting back to basics. And so we're green living, it covers more than just renewable energy.
Right. There's a lot more to it, a lot of different
Right.
angles and areas.
Yes. Right. So I'm trying to cover as much of it as I humanly can in 5-minute segments that I have with the shows, and touching on it as succinctly as I possibly can so it can get through to the viewers. And that's what I'm going to do. One episode at a time.
Now, give us the name of that show again.
Well, it will be the Green Living Guy show.
Green
That's
Living Guy Show, titled right after you,
Yes. Well, I have
named
the
after
register.
you.
Well, the company, the company um, owns Green Living Guy Productions, does own the registered trademark to the Green Living Guy, not just the copyright or the trademark, but we own the registered. So we went with the show. And what happened was when I did 4 segments for New York City media, which is the mayor's public access channel in the city. We did 4 episodes on a show they called Urban Green, but we called it Urban Green with the Green Living Guy, right? So I'm just going to keep it simple for people, you know.
Green Living Guy with Seth
Yeah,
Leitman. There you go, right? We got to
yeah,
work that name in there too, with the Green Living Guy, the
yeah,
Green Living
that'll
Guy
make
with Seth
sense.
Leitman.
I'll
It's
bleep
a
that.
thought.
Yeah. No, it's a
It's a
great
thought.
idea. You know,
Okay.
hey, I'll
Yeah,
have I
just
have
a thought that crossed my mind. And
let
maybe
us.
next time we'll be able to discuss publicly the venue, the network you'll be on at that point. Like I say,
Absolutely.
I know I've seen your LinkedIn, it's how we made contact,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll keep it under wraps here between the two of us until the
yeah.
time is.
Well, it's all good. Uh,
Yep.
by the time we have another interview, I will be on air and we'll be able to discuss this a little bit further, and we can have Q&A. We could do a
Right.
whole wide variety of things. And but if you go to my site greenlivingguy.com, you can order consulting for an hour if you need it. If you know of if you work for a municipality or a government that needs help, I can help you. If you need help with sustainability or with even clothing, I do that too. So we try and cover everything for people. And I know that green living is a concept that has been out there for a little bit, but it's still people are trying to wrap their head around it. So, you know, one of my in season 2, one of my new taglines is going to be, I've been doing this for 25 years. I thought it was time to do a show at this point.
There
You
you
know?
go. Right? There you go. All right. Seth Leitman is the Green Living Guy, and he is the program manager for Sustainable Westchester, Sustainable Hudson Valley, the electric car guy. Seth is also, too, here on Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com, produced by Sharc, S-H-A-R-C, Sharc Creative, and you can catch all of our programming at Sharc Creative on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. I'm John Marino. Seth, I want to go to a conversation I had on the radio, terrestrial radio, a few years back in Westchester with a caller who was very much a guy from New Rochelle who was very much into green living at that time, going back
Okay.
like 2014, 2015, thereabouts. And we had a long discussion on the air one day. And I said to him, and he said, we need to be like Europe. Everybody needs to be on a bicycle. Everybody needs to walk, etc. And he just said, this is the way society should be in this country. Hands down, flat out, that's it. To which I said, let's look at it this way and give me the answer to this. I live in New Rochelle. I work in Mahopac in Putnam County. If all I did was ride
Yeah.
a bicycle or walk, or maybe if I did have an electric car, I'd still have to charge the car up a few times a week. How do I get to work? How do I get from New Rochelle to Mahopac and back? Go one way,
Yeah.
get back and forth, vice versa. And he said, well, you could take a train if nothing else works,
I
which
see.
I was
I see.
dumbfounded at that point. I did say, I don't think you can go from New Rochelle to Mahopac by Metro North because New Rochelle is on the New Haven line.
No.
Putnam County is on
Yeah.
the Harlem line. And
Harlem
unless
line.
you took a
Yeah.
train down to 125th Street
It's
and
not going to
crossed
happen.
over there, I don't think that's going to work if you want to be on
No,
time to work.
that's correct. Look, the great thing about electric cars, even over the past 4 years, frankly, is we've gone from electric cars that were just 100-plus-mile cars to over 200-mile-plus cars to even in Tesla's 300-mile-plus
Right.
cars.
I've heard it's gotten up to about 3 now.
The Tesla Cybertruck will be in the 500 range. The Ford Mustang Mach-E will be in the 300 range, but you
So
can,
where do you need to get to mileage range wise where everybody's going to say, you know what, if we cut emissions totally, I can do that without having to worry about charging my car up too much. And consider
yeah,
people who drive a lot. For example, in the last 40 plus years, I've been in this business all around the tri-state area. I have driven and I've had other travels along the way, mostly throughout the tri-state area or the East Coast. I've driven more than 2 million miles
yeah.
in over 40 years. So how
Mhm.
does that work for me eventually?
Well, the great thing that's happening now, which I think is important, is you need more public infrastructure. more fast charging, and more charging available to people. Look, gas cars have a lot of gas stations. Electric cars don't have a lot of electric vehicle charging stations. So, or fast electric vehicle charging stations. So that is what something that the New York Power Authority is working on right now. You might have heard the governor just announced about $700 million toward the electrification of New York State, which includes uh, fast charging
Right. We
heavily,
did.
heavily. So I was on a call for that today as well with the New York Power Authority, and you can see that their goal is to basically create an infrastructure where gas stations and electric vehicle charging stations, the numbers are almost synonymous. So I talk about the Field of Dreams concept, where if you build it, they will come.
Right.
So when the more you drop chargers in a location, the more you start to see more electric vehicles in that area.
Can we put charging stations on gas stations? Can we get them to work together in sync synonymously? And you talk about gas stations being all over. When I began my career in 1979, 1980, I drove every day from the Bronx up to Warwick in Orange County,
Oh
six
yeah,
days a week, 150 miles round trip. I gassed up just about every day when I got off up in Warwick off the Quickway, Route 17, exit 126 in Chester on the corner, an old Gulf station run by another Bronx guy, Larry Schultz, who had moved up from Hunts Point up to Orange County, and he gassed me up every day for 50
right.
cents a gallon, something like that. What about chargers at gas stations? And you have your pick.
That's a great question. Absolutely great question. Um, Only so far one company got the memo on that. It was Shell. They bought up a fast charging company called Green Lots. Green Lots you can see now on the New York State Thruway. If you go north on the Hudson Valley, you'll see an E charger for these. But you're going to start to see now at all of the goal is at all of the Thruway rest stops, you're going to see EV electric vehicle fast chargers. So Shell is going to start putting fast chargers at electric vehicle charging stations, or at their gas stations over time. And I foresee them doing it more and more in markets where there are more vehicles. So in New York, California, Florida, Texas now. I
Right?
mean, Texas just announced they're going to be building.
Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but Texas just announced that they're going to be building the Cybertruck there with that's 600,000 Teslas that there are deposits for. So 600,000 trucks are going to be built so far, just on reserve in Texas near Austin. So the country is getting more into this. When you start to see more of a market demand, you'll start to see more gas companies start buying up other charging stations companies and dropping them into their gas station
Right now,
places.
is it basically Elon Musk against Exxon, for example? And then once they start to work together, then we can kind of get to that point where we have chargers on gas stations and a whole lot more.
Yeah, I mean, he did it because he was doing it, like Rockefeller or like Ford was. You need a gas station or a charging station for your car,
Right.
and so he created brand identity around it to get more sales, which worked. Ford is working with a wide variety of charging networks across the country, but they're not betting on any particular charging station, right?
Why?
Tesla did, but you're talking there's about 12,000 in the United States that you can use from Ford, for example.
Mhm.
You can now get across country in an electric vehicle. You can, and most electric vehicles go well over that 150 miles that you used to commute. And I think that even, which is something that you might want to consider, or your viewers might want to consider, is even if they don't want an all electric vehicle, there's something called a plug-in hybrid, which you plug in, you get about, it depends on the car, right? Between 10 to 50 miles, all electric, and then it goes hybrid. So your backup is gas. as well. So
So you can do a 2-in-1.
that's what it is. That's what the point of the plug-in hybrid is, to get people accustomed to electric vehicle driving and to feel more comfortable with it, and that transition toward electrification. So I have seen a lot of people buying that bought the Chevy Volts back then. Now you have the Toyota Prius and the Toyota.
Oh,
You have the
yeah,
Prius Prime.
yeah,
You have the Rav4 Prime.
right.
Um, Hyundai Ioniq, Kia Niro, all have plug-in hybrids. The Hyundai Elantra. So there's a wide variety of available cars that are electric, that if you're so nervous and you just need to get your feet in the water, um, go with a plug-in hybrid. You won't go wrong, because everybody that started getting accustomed to the idea of electric cars that I know, the first thing they always said to me is, I like the Chevy Volt because I could still use gas if I want to. And they like that idea. So, and then what happens is, the more you use it, the more you realize, oh, if I have a 300-mile car, I'm good. But for people that aren't, get a plug-in hybrid, or even get a hybrid.
Uh-huh. Seems
You
like
know,
a way to go. Yeah,
you
and
know,
I see more and more hybrids on the road. No doubt, no
just
question
try
about
it. I mean, if you can get 40 miles a gallon, why get 29?
that. Huh?
If you can get more on a hybrid, for example, if you can get more miles between oil changes, why? Why not? Or, for example, when you drive a car and you get a hybrid, you need to think about this too, that when the odometer reads like 100 something thousand miles,
Right.
you're not using that engine all that time. So really, maybe it's about 50,000 miles of a gas car, and 50,000 of hybrid. So your
It's like
battery.
the equivalent of when you talk about a car, how much mileage is on it, and you may go to trade in with a dealer, and the dealer says, "All right, you got 120,000. How much was highway?" You say 85,000. He'll say
Right,
that car's in pretty good shape. If you said, "I have
right.
85,000 on the streets of New York City," for example, he's going to say, "I don't think I want that car."
Yeah. You want me to just cart it away for you?
Yeah. Uh huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, by the
So,
way, you do have to pay the towing cost to
oh,
get the
yes,
car
you
out of here
do.
too. So
Yes,
sorry,
you do
can't use it.
nowadays.
Yeah, and that
Yep.
makes a difference. Yeah, no doubt about
Yeah.
that.
So, one thing I'm noticing too, that people should be aware of, is that um, Toyota hybrids in general, not Toyota, but hybrids in general, go longer, way longer in range than you can expect. I know one person who still has the same Toyota Prius. They just replaced the battery pack for about $3,000 to $4,000. But the engine, or the odometer reading, right, says 300,000 miles.
Astounding.
So my point is that hybrid cars alone go longer than a gas car. Then plug-in hybrids go even longer. And electric cars, because they have less moving parts and less whatever, are less on maintenance and go even further. We've even seen now reports where Teslas are getting odometer readings of over 1,000,000 miles.
Which leads to this thought. You talk about Tesla with the solar panels being a forerunner, Tesla with electric cars and all this hybrids, etc. Elon Musk, the driving force. He's taking us into outer space now, too.
Mm.
How is it that he jumped on all of this first? It seems to be working. And then you talk about others who kind of slide their way in and are still
Yes.
hedging their bets after all this. Why aren't more companies jumping into this full force where they're just allowing Elon Musk to take over the market? And that's not a monopoly at that point. He had the
Yeah.
idea, he was first, and he developed this. It's his.
Yeah. Well, let me give you even further writing on the wall about this, John. Um, if you look at an old sales curve of the Ford Model T, and you look at the sales curve of a Tesla Model 3, uh, Tesla's already beating it. That leap that leap. So we have been encouraging the car companies for quite some time to get into this game, while Tesla has just been trouncing them, and they're now starting to get their feet in. But the other issue really is because he saw it so long ago, because he's only an electric car. He was able to, with economies of scale, order and set purchase orders far exceeding anything. So he has enough supply of batteries. Some of these car companies just don't have that supply chain set up. In fact, Nissan had a problem with sales for a while, being able to churn out more Nissan Leafs for a while. Now they're okay, and they're going to be coming out with the SUV style Aria next year. But they didn't have it because they sold off their own battery company, and they had to go find new
A
supply.
new one.
Yeah, a new battery. So
Makes no sense.
they got
No,
out of the
makes no
battery
sense.
business. They got
Yeah,
out of battery business.
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of these car companies are very married to old ways, and they really are slowly transitioning out. Uh, if you were to, a lot of them still are believe that the, either this is a phase or this is something that's not going to take over their market share, and they're sorely mistaken. I'll say this again: they're sorely mistaken because the market is demanding it. The market is buying these cars.
And I've
And
seen you go to the Westchester Mall in White Plains, you go into Roosevelt Field on Long Island, you go to Garden State Plaza in Paramus in New Jersey, right across the Hudson River, and you see the Tesla shops in these malls. I've watched after hours in these malls. I've watched Teslas be moved in and out of these Tesla
yeah,
shops, driven through the lanes of the mall. They fit right in. And I thought, what an amazing concept that is.
yeah, I have been warning people for a while that Tesla was going to do better than expected. I've even have been explaining it to Wall Street as part of my consulting too. And now you're starting to see things which is very exciting. And I'll give you the example. There's a company called Rivian that's out of Detroit, and they have come up with a what they call a skateboard, but it's basically a platform where, okay, if you were to take this as a platform, you got four wheels, and underneath is your battery, and on top is your motor, your controller, and all the other stuff. So then you just put a shell on top, and you can make anything. So Ford invested over $750 million into them. They're the F-150, the Mustang Mach-E, and future cars that they do that are all electric are going to be based off of the Rivian platform. So Rivian sells them the platform, Ford puts their thing on top. Amazon, you might have seen commercials where they said they have bought or they have set orders for, and they plan to have over 100,000 electric delivery vans around the country. They bought that's through Rivian. They own an investment in Rivian. Um, so those 100,000 are going to be using the Rivian skateboard. Um, Tesla, with their Model Y, which is an SUV, just used the Rivian skateboard. So, why am I saying this? Because you're starting to see American. First of all, Tesla is an American car company. Let's start with the basics. But now you're starting to see other Detroit-based electric vehicle car companies coming to market. And what is the biggest selling vehicle in North America, or meaning the United States? Not North America, but the United States. But the Ford F-150. So that's why Elon came up with the Cybertruck. It's cheaper than a fully loaded F-150 at the highest price. It gives you more range, more torque, more speed. You get an ATV out of the deal, right? All these things. So 600,000 deposits now are on the Cybertruck before anything. And, people discounted the Model 3 thinking that wasn't going to be a success, right? And then
Right.
what happened? The Model 3 came out, and John, I saw that too. For the state, I used to review during that process when the New York State rebate came out, and at the same time, those Model 3s were rolling in. They used to buy space in parking lots near them in Mount Kisco, store all the Model 3s and Model X's and in the parking lot, and then drive the car over to the store because they didn't have enough room because they were selling these things like hotcakes. Like once these the Model 3s started coming out and they started calling people and saying, okay, you can pick up your car now. It wasn't like people were like, nah, just kidding. People went and bought the car in droves, in bucket loads. And I see them all around me now. I'm even
Now,
seeing them around the country in states that you wouldn't expect them. So car companies, I'm warning you, you got to get into this more. Chevy is now doing the Buick. They got an alliance with LG batteries, so they're going to do okay. Ford will do just fine. Tesla will do fine. But I am concerned about a couple of those other car companies. I got to tell you, I'm very concerned because for the market disruption. It's just inevitable. I mean, you think about without naming names, okay? Because I'm not one of these guys that does that, right? Think of what the largest car company was 5 years ago, and
what
now
was
one of them was Toyota
it? Okay.
with the Camry, being one of the most universally bought cars in the country.
We had
All
a
this,
Hummer
right?
not too long ago, and that's out of production, does not
That's
exist
right.
anymore. I
And
saw
that
one
what
on the road a couple of days ago, first time in years.
I know, and now General Motors is about to come out with the Hummer EV, using this, and they probably will use the same skateboard philosophy. Get the skateboard from from Rivian, put the Hummer look on top, and have that sucker perform. And they're all starting to work together to make this happen. The ones that are seeing it and doing what's needed to be done. And look, in life and in the market, as we know, there are always market disruptions. One of them was Apple. One of them was Microsoft. Um, there are market disruptions. There are things that shake up business and say we're not going to do it the same way before. And
Right.
Tesla is that example of that. And they're
As they
still not
say,
even.
what's old becomes new again with these skateboards and this idea, for
Yes. Yeah.
example. You look at
Right.
the numbers, the successful numbers so far of all of this. We're joined by Seth Leitman here on Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. Isolation Therapy. I'm John Marino, produced by Sharc, S-H-A-R-C. Sharc Creative, and catch all of our programming, Westchester, Fairfield, and Putnam County Talk Radio, Sharc Creative, and more on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. We are brought to you by, made possible by a number of our good friends around the area, like Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center in Buchanan. They promise to power us up around Westchester through April of 2021. White Plains Hospital Center at White Plains Hospital. We thank you, one and all, our heroes through the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville, and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction. Seth Leitman is the program manager for Sustainable Hudson Valley, Sustainable Westchester, the green living guy, the electric car guy, a major proponent for a quarter of a century now. He's been working with and developing the green economy. Seth, let's talk wind farms now.
Sure.
We have wind farms, 23 and a number of them. 23 miles offshore off of Montauk. We have wind farms right next door across the border from Montauk, Block Island, Rhode Island. We've got a bunch there. Wind farms on. It's a real hot day outside right now as we record in the cool of our homes, obviously. But
Yes.
let's say it's about 90 degrees or so outside right now, I guess. Let's say everybody's air conditioning did not exist anymore. We put it all away. We yanked it out of the walls. We filled all those holes in the wall up with some plaster or whatever, and we relied on these wind farms off Montauk and Block Island, etc. And if we don't get a really nice windy or breezy day on a day like this, how do we stay cool without our ACs on, without
Yeah.
central air conditioning?
Well, I'm going to interject one point. Uh, AC is still AC. Air conditioning is still air conditioning. And if you need it for comfort in your home in these sweltering hot days, I'm not going to tell you not to put in an air conditioner. But wind power, look, they have wind power now in upstate New York. And I've driven past it a few times as I've driven my son to the University of Buffalo, goes there. They power. I mean, during the hot days, they're still churning. And I think they're even talking about now, because one of the big law issues that was a siting issue was you couldn't in New York City get power from something that wasn't close to you. So that's another reason why, for example, they had built Indian Point, right? So now they're talking about being able to eliminate those restrictions so those wind power farms upstate can power up New York City as well. So wind, especially offshore, there's always current. There's always wind going on, in the Atlantic, way out there, right? Not close to home, but out there. There's always
And
these
these
current.
Montauk plants are 23 miles offshore, correct?
Yeah, yes, they are. They're far enough out so that that you can't see them, but they're far enough out that they still deliver the electricity, and they're doing a great job. And the more that we see offshore wind, also, as I said before, one thing I'm very much a proponent of is tidal. They're doing offshore wind, but they can also do tidal at the same time. And I think if what's going to happen is you're going to start to see more integration of technologies going on together. So, for example, what's happening now is you're going to start to see more energy storage going on in New York City, where they're just going to have massive, like they do in California, where you have massive battery banks that are just storing up this energy, and then they deliver it to you when you need it.
Does this reduce cost by integrating technology too? The more
Yes.
technology that works together, the less
Yeah.
we pay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that over time, what you'll see is a way. Hold on one second.
sure.
Hang on.
I've gotten beat to a couple of times as we do this. So,
So you'll
way of
start
the
to see.
world today.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Jeff, you're a busy
So
guy, no doubt about that. I know
yeah,
somebody's getting in touch about your expertise as we're talking about here. As you were
yeah,
saying,
yes. The offshore wind, as well as the integration of tidal with that, as well as maybe in the future energy storage as well. They're talking now more about using geothermal, which is 6 feet under is a constant temperature. So if you use that and then you can heat or cool that, you reduce your overall heating and cooling costs, which are the number one form of energy consumption in your home. Not your appliances, not your TV, not your fridge, but your heating and your cooling are the two biggest things that will put a, a dent in your pocketbook unless you have renewable energies to offset that. So I foresee that you're going to start to see wind, tidal, geothermal, all of these types of renewable energies come to market and then sync together so that there'll be this easier transition that people are nervous about occurring, where there's just going to be these blackouts.
so
Um,
what do power companies think of all this?
I don't know what they think behind closed doors, but I know that Con Ed is very much promoting it. I do know that for the electric vehicle deployment, they absolutely love the idea because it's more megawatts on the grid than before. So there's going to be more megawatts consumed electrically. There's going to be a need for more renewable energies to offset that. And I know that part of the governor's mission will include a large, vast array of energy storage as well. It's not just going to be offshore wind. So if there are only 2 or 3 turbines out there, we're afraid that we're going to lose power. it's going to be it's a host of options that we as New Yorkers or the tri-state are not used to, but we're going to get used to. And it's going to be cleaner. That's not a bad thing because, and let's be real, some of the places where there are these nasty power plants in the tri-state is where you're starting to see higher rates of COVID. It's been in the New York Times. It's been not just me saying it. It's been reported even by analysts and by institutions and universities. So the more we can clean up the air through power delivery, right, the better off we're going to be as a handling energy delivery in this country and in this state. People are getting more powerful electronics regularly. They're getting two phones, one phone for work, one phone for home. Their computers are getting more. They're getting more TVs in their house. Consumption's not going to go away, but there are ways that we can offset it and ways we can do it so it's clean and it doesn't affect the air we breathe. Uh, I think that's what you're going to see over time. And what I mean by over time is over the next 5 years, you're going to see a rapid deployment of this stuff because as we've talked about, Indian Point is coming offline. They're going to be adding more energy storage in the boroughs. So you'll see them in Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and the Bronx, which is going to be great. And with that, and then with Long Island handling their own power issues by doing offshore wind and stuff like that, that's going to be a big help. I mean, because Long Island is its own.
It's its own stratosphere, Long Island.
Yeah,
Having lived there for a long time and worked on radio there, it's its own world. There is no doubt about that.
Well, its own enigma, but it's its own thing out there, and it needs its
enigma is a good word. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Things happen on Long Island. Why? I've said this for 40 years. They just happen. It's Long Island. There you go. So
that's right.
So bottom line, I guess, the bottom line is traditional power and energy companies, our home air conditioners, the wind farms off Montauk and Block Island and upstate, etc. It can all work together to bring us our energy of the future, electric cars, solar panels, LED lighting, too, which seems to work very well. Got some in my house here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say one thing about LED lighting that I spoke with, of all people, just to realize how far we've come with LED lighting. I've spoken with the head of lighting for Home Depot. Now, I don't mean like from the Hawthorne store. I mean corporate-wide. Corporate-wide. And I asked him what the saturation rate is, meaning how many people have bought LEDs. Are they buying other things, right? And they said they're at about a 98% saturation rate of LED. So that means that everybody that's going in now to buy bulbs is going straight for the LED counter versus.
I have a 92-year-old father who's heavily into LEDs. Says he needs lights. He says, go get me some LEDs.
Yeah.
You know what they cost, right? Just so you know. Yeah, but they work, so let's go get them.
Well, they cost a little bit more, but on the bill, they're going to really drop your electric consumption dramatically. I know in my house. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first bought LEDs for my house when I moved into this house that I'm in now in Briarcliff. We had incandescents, and I had to unscrew them and put in the new LED lights. But I saw it on my Con Ed bill, folks. I did see it, even though when you're paying $3 something a month, you see the little difference in anything, right? So here's the thing, though, which is interesting, which is a really interesting gauge for us when we think about stocks and business and the economy. I asked him how well is the saturation of LEDs in commercial. He said it's at 42%. This was less than a year ago. He said 42%. So well over 50-something% of commercial buildings in this country have not switched over to LEDs. They're still on fluorescent.
But they are, I guess, bit by bit, piece by piece.
What I'm seeing now, what I'm seeing now is people are realizing they're getting the memo that LED is more efficient overall, and the pricing is coming down dramatically. By the way, the pricing of LEDs versus 5 years ago versus the prices of LEDs now, there's it's way cheaper, way cheaper. So what I'm seeing is when private sector starts implementing LED lighting, they start to be able to do things. And I'll tell you a reason why I know. I used to work for a consultant company called MSI Lighting. They don't exist anymore because they got bought out by 3M. But they were an LED company. They put in all the LEDs in Macy's during the '08 downturn. And they started off doing it just in Herald Square for a demonstration. They got all the rebates from New York State. They did all the dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, make everything perfect. And then they installed them with the rebates and everything. After the first month, the CFO of Macy's calls up the CEO of MSI Lighting back then and apologizes. Goes, mea culpa. Well, I just got my power bill. I did not realize it was going to make that such an impact. So what did he do? He said, I'm going to do LED in all of my stores across the country. And when they did that, because of the savings they saw immediately, remember when Macy's was hiring when the downturn occurred in 2008?
At that
They
time.
did it off the back of savings from LEDs.
Interesting.
So what I'm saying here is imagine when that other 50-something percent of commercial buildings go LED, and people that were paying that power aren't paying that anymore. That's real dollar savings. And when that happens, you're going to see a jump in the economy. You're just going to see this boost. I mean, they were the CEO of Macy's was saying to the CEO of MSI Lighting back then, "Why isn't Saks doing it? Why isn't why?" And they were just like, because they don't see it like you do now. And it took, you have to get aware of the technology. And once you put it in, you see the savings. Look at these other companies now. Victoria's Secret's out of business. You can't sustainably run your business now without having energy efficient technology in your stores to
But
help
most
you.
businesses realize that. Or has
They're,
that been a hard sell?
they're starting to realize it now. They're starting to realize it. For example, the drugstore down the hill from me, they originally were compact fluorescent tube lights. That they call them T8s for people that are in the business. But if you look up in any commercial place and you see tube lighting, that's what it is. They switched out to LED, but they did it as they burned off their fluorescent lighting. So it took them 3 years to realize to wait, and then after the lights went out, they started replacing it. Now they're like, we'll never not do this. This is perfect. But we still have 50-something percent of commercial businesses and commercial space still using compact fluorescent lighting. When they start switching over, you're going to see this massive savings. And with savings for businesses can either come expansion, hiring, a wide variety of things. So you will see that over time. That's it, because they're going to start targeting those businesses. They're going to start. Home Depot wants that saturate. They want a 98% saturation rate on the private sector side, right?
Seth Leitman, you've written a number of books, 9, I think, overall. You're on number
Yeah.
10. Tell us about number 10.
Well, I'm working on number 10 right now. It'll be my Green Living Guidebook for Going Green. It'll be out soon. We are at the point now of finalizing the manuscript and shopping it, but we've already gotten some more than enough requests from publishing companies. So I worked with McGraw-Hill for several years, since, wow, geez, over 10 years now. over 10 years on these line of books called the Green Guru Guides. Some of them I either wrote, co-wrote, or edited. I was the editor on them, so I get royalties from that. But we're doing a book now because McGraw-Hill, when you talk about the economy, McGraw-Hill is even getting out of the DIY book space. They're only going back to core business textbooks, right? So everybody's doing this contraction, but they're not seeing how they could expand out and save themselves money. So that's why I'm getting my books into schools. I'm doing a massive donation program to get these books into schools so kids can read these books and learn about this stuff. It's so essential. So I hopefully by the next time I see you and we have an interview, I will even have more to announce on that because I'm working on all cylinders at this point to get all of this stuff out.
And you can tell us more about your TV show at that point, too.
I will be able to tell people everything about the TV show.
Seth Leitman, we thank you. Seth Leitman, the program manager for Sustainable Hudson Valley and Sustainable Westchester, the Green Living Guy. And he's got the Green Living Guy show coming up. He'll tell us about it next time on what network it's going to be on. And also, too, Seth Leitman is a leader in the green economy around our tri-state area and across this country, too. Seth Leitman, Leitman. How can we get in touch with you if someone would like to consult with you about the green economy, get a look at how to get their lighting in the right way, the solar panels, maybe get an electric car, etc.? Tell us how.
Well, there's the simple way is greenlivingguy.com. Go to my contact us page, fill it out, send it. It goes right to my phone. That's the easiest way. You can also email me at greenlivingguy@gmail. So it's just take my name without the greenlivingguy@gmail.com. And I also have through my business on my website, on Google, you can find me. If you type in Green Living, you'll see my company is ETS Energy Store LLC, but you'll see that, or you'll see Green Living Guy Productions online. You can get me through there. But greenlivingguy.com is the best way. And I want to do a shout out to Entergy because there's something I've heard about Entergy that I want them to do here because I don't want them to leave. They're in other parts of the country starting to do battery leasing. So what they do is they buy the batteries for electric transit buses or electric school buses, and then you pay them a monthly like you would pay for your fuel, but it's significantly less than gas and oil. So they're doing battery leasing programs in California or in other parts of the country where they have a presence, a footprint, and we would love them to do that here too. So Entergy, if you listen and you want to help do battery leasing in this part of the tri-state area, give me a ring because I know people that would love to work with you on that. So
they do listen, so you know.
Yeah,
they are our title sponsor here at Westchester.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I've always said to people, because people said to me, "Are you going to do?" Look, energy companies are the ones that can help us transition. I can't do it alone. I can only speak about what I know and tell people, but I don't have $1 trillion to be able to convert and go over to energy storage. I'm still paying off the loan on my solar, for goodness sakes. So what I'm saying is energy companies like Shell that are buying green lots or doing these kinds of purchases or things to help people, they're the ones. We need them. We need them. They, instead of just being, an energy in one particular form of energy, think about how you can be an energy delivery company green. And we want you to stay here to do that because we need you. And I'm not just saying this to be nice. I'm saying this because I've even written this in my books. I've been saying this since I left the Power Authority and I started consulting on my own. You need the Power Authority. You need NYSEG. You need PSE&G. You need Central. These guys are the ones that are going to be creating this wired infrastructure so that we can even put EV chargers on the road. I'm not doing it. They're doing it. So I want to really give a shout out to Entergy I've heard that they're working with a bus company called Proterra to do this in other parts of the country, and we'd love them to do that here. So I just wanted to put that out there because if I didn't, I would have bit my lip
You would have
And
been
like
recalcitrant, as they say, right?
yes,
So there you
yes,
go.
yes. I
All
just
right,
would be
Seth.
like,
Glad you did that.
I
Thank
needed
you.
to say that.
And
Yeah.
we'll talk again, Seth Leitman. I guess what we should say in unison is go green.
Go green.
Go green. There you
Go
go.
green. That's
All right.
right. Yeah.
Leitman
And in
here on
Texas, we say
Westchester
go
Talk
green or
Radio.
go home.
There. Okay, go green or go home. How do you like
Or
that?
go
That's a
home.
good one. Go green or
Yeah.
go home. We got a new slogan there too. All right.
Yeah.
Seth Leitman, the green living guy here, program
Thank you.
manager, Sustainable Westchester, Sustainable Hudson Valley on Westchester Talk Radio, Westchester Talkradio.com, produced by Sharc, SHARC Creative Isolation Therapy, our show here. And I'm John Marino. We are brought to you by, made possible by our good friends around the area like Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center in Buchanan, where they promise to power us up throughout Westchester through April of 2021. Lipolis Electric. Never be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. Hightower, Westchester. At Hightower, they manage your money to a fiduciary standard. White Plains Hospital Center, we thank you, all of our heroes on the front line there, for all you've done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon. Also to Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville and Michael Labriola Design and Construction. We thank you one and all. We thank you, Seth Leitman. I'm John Marino. We are Westchester Talk Radio, WestchesterTalkRadio.com. Catch all of our programming at Westchester, Fairfield, and Putnam County Talk Radio on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.